What's good, everyone? Welcome to the Almost Grown Up podcast with Kamil and Azeem. As always, if you like what you hear and see, drop a comment, drop a like, hit that subscribe button if you're new around here, and make sure to hit that bell as well. Oh, that rhymed. See you in the video.
Triangle, circle, X. Square. There you
What?
go. PlayStation.
I've never given you the intro count again.
I don't like doing counts. I don't know. We don't even need to do it.
Yeah, but it's just a thing.
It's just a thing, though. Yeah, well,
else you
I
gonna-
fucked up the thing.
It makes the transition a bit easier.
Transition from.
The intro to this intro.
That's what I mean. You can't double stack your intros.
Yeah, you can.
Double parked.
What's good, everyone? How's everyone doing? Let us know in the comments. I'm going to keep saying that.
It's that noise.
We did.
No. It's making you
broken
editing it more
today.
funny. Yeah, no, I'm feeling like I'm in a weird mood. Whoa, that came out really, really fast.
Did it? I speak really quickly.
I feel like we both do.
Ever since we started this podcast, I've kind of just been a bit more insecure about how I speak. I'm like, how do people understand me? If I can't understand what I'm saying, I'm just...
It does.
I mumble.
Get highlighted.
It just stutters all sorts. There's lots of stuttering going on when I speak sometimes. Like Jerome.
Oh
We
no! You
just
can't
get-
out your boy like that.
No, but I'm the
Well, you
same.
did.
That's the thing. I'm the same. We just get stuck.
I
And
had
then
this
you're just there
period-
going, laugh in your head at us.
It is funny.
Like,
Although that being said, there was like a period of like 4 or 5 years when
this is strong.
I would
Damn.
see, so there's a period of 4 or 5 years when I would see Jerome regularly, and I noticed that I had somehow inherited his stammer, and I was like, well, "How the fuck has this happened?" I mean, sorry, how the fuck has this happened?
Well, they say you are. Was it the?
To be fair, his one isn't actually that. His one is never that noticeable. So sorry,
No,
Jerome.
mine is a lot more. So I'm out of myself. But they say,
Outing myself.
they say you're like the sum of the closest people you hang out with, or whatever the phrase is.
No.
So yeah, you get all the mannerisms and all the humor, or lack thereof, from us.
Dick jokes.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. But yeah, after the last podcast, that's the thing. We actually spent a lot of time outside of the podcast too, because after the last one, we went and got some food, and so like this thing that everyone else is seeing is like, this is us trying to be interesting. So,
Yeah,
but it's not.
but
really.
the thing is, like, so obviously we're trying to be like us, or like we would normally be in a podcast, or outside
Trying
of
to
a
be
podcast,
like
within
us.
a podcast, yeah. But it's weird, isn't it? Because as soon as you're like in this setting, it's like, okay, now we have to talk about something. But I feel like we're
suppose.
getting better at it, you know.
The viewers are like, oh,
But
the viewer is like, nope.
us rewatching it. But there are
Oh my
points where,
god, that fucking first time! Oh, it's so funny
yeah,
when we had no idea what we were doing. We were like, let's just do a test run.
yeah,
And it was like a 2-hour conversation of being sat in the old studio,
yeah.
and
But I think that's because we had no concept of what we were actually going to do. We were just talking. So that was us talking. Whereas now we've
yeah.
got like a bit of a
we
kind of
try
theme
and give it a bit
happening.
of a shape.
Yeah, totally. We're still making it
Pear
up.
shape,
Like
yeah.
I don't think that'll ever change. We'll still just
I think that's half the fun of the podcast, though.
yeah.
This is going to get really like deep, but
Oh,
I was thinking, like, this is going to be like on record. So like, if I die, or if you die, it's going to be like me being
Jesus.
sad, like being like, this is my friend.
taxi.
You can't leave a taxi.
No, I get what you mean though. Yeah.
Yeah, can't leave a taxi. You can leave a taxi.
can't.
Taxi. Anyway, but yeah, so we went to Richmond, and I'm still hell bent on doing this idea, which I don't want to ruin now.
We should just say it. Whoa.
Someone went back to primary school then. No.
Secondary school as well for me.
Let's. Do your voice break in secondary school?
I think so. Yeah. I think
Man,
so, yeah.
mine broke in year 6. I would have been 11. It's fucking annoying, man.
There's a couple of students that I teach who are at that cusp of like
Breakage.
yeah, And it's funny because they'd just be like, whoa, what happened to my voice then? Or they wouldn't like kind of quite catch on what's happening. So their voice would break. I'm like, whoa, my voice went really funny then. I was like, yeah, it did. Yep.
Get used to it. There's one kid at my school. His name was Abdul. And he literally spoke like a fairy until the summer of year 10 going into 11. So he would be like 14, 15 / 15, 16. And bro, so everyone used to take the we went to an all boys school, so everyone used to take the piss out of anyone whose voice hadn't broke. And this guy used to literally speak like this until year 10, the end of year 10.
It was good, fam.
Then he came back and he was like, "You're right, Azeem." I was like, "Oh my god, it happened! It happened!" I gave him a big hug and I was like, "I'm so proud of you, man." I've not changed.
I'm so proud of you. No, I know this.
And he was just like, "Fuck's sake," this guy. But anyway, I still think we should do this idea of the podcast. We're working on it. It's coming soon. In fact,
We need to at least say it.
Maybe it can happen. Wait, when do we? April 12th. We should do that because there'll be
Bare people out.
Yeah.
I'm going to be so shit at it, you know this, right?
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, we also need to sort out the mic situation for that too.
You mean I need to sort out the mic situation?
Well, we both have to do it with our...
Yeah, I know.
I think we're pretty much giving the idea away. Basically, what we're thinking of doing is a sort of walk around podcast. So the idea is that we're going to have a GoPro sort of on like a selfie stick while we're just walking around. So, I mean, something like half hour of us walking around and talking. So that's the idea. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
We'll just need to sort of figure out how we're going to record the audio and make sure everything's matching up. Yeah, that's probably the easier part. But it's sort of going to be, we're going to test it out as like a out of lockdown special. So that's the idea we had. So if you are on board with that, let us know in the comments.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to kind of gauge a bit of interest in this because that's going to be
I don't think we should do it every
time.
time. Because if it's like pissing it down with rain, I don't want to be like walking around and being like, "So this sucks."
Well, yeah, the microphone won't work.
They'll have an umbrella.
Hi guys, welcome to the podcast. Everyone's like,
That would be quite
we're
funny.
walking around and no one's out. It's just us. Like, why are we here? Hey, duck, what do you got to say?
Quack.
It'd be great if it would just say that on command. I'd be quite impressed.
I think you'd have a hard time editing out the rain on the...
Oh yeah,
the
it
umbrella.
might give like a nice ominous sort of.
I don't know, it's an ominous podcast with the almost grown up. It's not gonna...
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
But anyway, so we had an interesting conversation while sat on a bench, and this is sort of we had the idea a couple of weeks ago about that outdoor podcast thing, but this sort of compounded why I wanted to do it, because we have all these conversations that are sort of outside of this room and this square that you're seeing of us. And one of the conversations that came up was, it was on the topic of the hate crimes that have happened in America recently. And so I asked Kamil the question, what do you think is the sort of... Oh yeah, what do we call it? Actually, I want to make sure I use the phrase correctly. The one that we had. It was... something...
In the notes folder. It'd be at the top. It'd be towards the top.
It's never at the top. Oh yeah, there we go. So we said, who is... And this sounds really, really bad.
Oh yeah, I know it is.
But who is the bottom of the racist pile? And by that I mean, so
Who doesn't get
if you look
the
at
attention?
so we kind of got into quite a deep conversation around, well, you know, it's only last year that
the BLM stuff happened?
all the BLM stuff happened.
Less than a year actually. It was like April, May, wasn't it?
Whenever George Floyd, and
it was,
and he wasn't the first person to die. Obviously, there's always like, you know,
it's been happening for years. Yeah.
yeah, but it took that and the fact that now we have social media for it to become like a global movement, right?
Mm.
But then in the context of now with all these Asian hate crimes, which I'm assuming is fueled by the coronavirus because they think it's like their fault somehow, but it begs the question, you know, where, like, how come that's not getting as much attention compared to
stuff.
And so that's why we sort of started having the conversation of who is at the bottom of the racist pile. And I said to Kamil, is it my kind of Asian, or is it the Asian hate crimes against, like, you know, the Chinese, Japanese, Koreans, and like the hate crimes that are happening in America there? I think we established it probably goes the most
So the top being the ones who get the most
attention,
exposure out of it. Not exposure is a really bad word because it's not.
Or have the most mass awareness of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so like,
and people are willing to take notice of it.
Yeah, and post about it and share their views.
There's a lot of like social posturing that you realize because people want to be like, oh, I'm not racist, but only for like the big high profile causes that get them attention. So it's never like nothing's unconditional. It's always sort of done for like, I guess, clout chasing, as you'd call it nowadays. So we established it was black racism, which gets the most exposure.
Right.
And again, we using these terms very loosely, but hopefully you're not too soft and understand what we mean. Then
the Far East Asian, I guess, if you want to say that.
Yeah. Then my Asian, the brown people. But then I suppose we missed out the I guess the Latin community because they also get a lot of stuff.
But I guess you have so many like micro ethnicities within that as well. So obviously we're just completely like
it's like
generalizing like we normally do. Yeah, it's blanket terms. But yeah, I guess the Latin Americans or Spanish
Hispanic
people? Hispanic, yeah.
It's also hard to say.
I think it's hard to say
without
saying the wrong words.
Yeah, I don't know what's a politically correct word now. This is not going to get any adverts on it.
But doesn't matter. I think the Far East Asian and the Hispanic are probably equal.
Actually, I would say,
and then white people. Not that white people need to be included in this list, but you know, people might sort of experience racism being white in some case. You know, I don't know if you're in another part of the city where, you know.
So I really hate it when people are like, you can't be racist to white people. Like, you can.
No, you can be racist to anyone.
You can.
Yeah, exactly. It's just the whole thing is, you know, black people have had fucking hundreds of years of this, which is kind of why we were talking about like why they're almost at the front of it, because they've always had it. So it's been more of a thing, and it's you know, you've had Martin Luther King, you've had like all these movements.
Equally, you could also say about anti-Semitism, so people who are anti-Jewish.
Oh, cheers, yeah,
because that is very high profile actually, and yet people don't really support it as much, or they're not maybe they do, but they're not happy to be seen supporting it. And I think maybe that's because comparatively it's easier to, so let's use like a white person as like a basis, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at a white person, look at a Jewish person, they can look quite similar, right?
Well, with color they're the same.
Yeah. Whereas the difference between a black person and a white person, you know
straight away. Color spectrum.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I think because it's easier to distinguish, and therefore it's easier to jump on. It's a bigger bandwagon to jump on because it's easier for people to understand. It's like saying, and this is really, really crude marryment of two things here, but it's like saying how football is more accessible, right, to the masses because it's easy to understand. It's a more simple sport, whereas you look at rugby, not so easy.
Yeah, you can't just like
there's a lot more to
rugby,
it.
Like on the street.
I feel like you have to be a lot more cerebral player to play rugby well.
I got you.
There's more players, more positions, more roles, and
there's more rules as well, I guess.
Yeah, and there's
you need more of an understanding.
So I think in that same vein, I think it's easier for someone to jump on the bandwagon and be like, "Oh, I'm anti-racism because look, I'm supporting a black person," whereas if they go, "I'm anti-racism because I'm supporting a Jewish person," people are going to look at the Jewish person and be like, "Well, what are they struggling through? They're white."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But that's not.
Which I guess is how you can be racist to a white person.
But I guess that's not race, though, is it?
Well, no, because the Jews are a race. Because a Semite is someone from the Far East. So it's that region.
I got you.
So anti-Semitism is no. That's the thing.
I get what you mean. I always associated that with a
religion.
Religion, because it is, but I guess the religion originates.
You know who would be really good in this podcast? Vera for that.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
So if you're listening, get you on at some point.
You'll get a DM soon, yeah.
but I feel like, to be fair, I feel like she'd be very good at explaining the history of it too.
Yeah.
I feel like she's quite knowledgeable on that.
Which is something that we're not knowledgeable on. I'm not even knowledgeable on my history.
That is true. But I'm the same, and I don't give a fuck. But this is the other thing that I wanted to talk about, right? Because we had a bigger topic about people's sense of belonging, because I find nationalism, and that's gotten a really bad word recently because people think of nationalism as being a nationalist, like a white nationalist.
Yeah, being overly patriotic and like this is my country and all this
Yeah.
sort of shit.
Like, I don't really get it.
What, you
No.
don't get people who are like that, or you don't get?
I don't get the core concept. Like, what are you not getting? Core concept? Because, and I think this is partly due to, excuse me, it's partly due to how I am, because both my parents being Pakistani, they were born there but came here. I was born here. So I've sort of been raised like, I know I'm not like English. Right.
I'm exactly the same as you.
But I don't consider myself Pakistani as well. And that's when people get like really like defensive about their countries. If I'm like, I've just got spat out my mum in this region of the earth.
Yeah.
Like I have no, like, and in the same way, I understand that people have like, grandfathers and whatnot who fought in the war, and there's that link to it. So that I can understand a bit more. But people who are just sort of like, they take pride in being English, but they don't know what does that really stand for to them.
Yeah.
And I think maybe perhaps they aren't articulate enough or educated enough to articulate.
Yeah, for me, it's like, when people, like, say when, I don't know, I'm Polish, I moved here when I was 4, but, like, I'm kind of in the similar sort of boat as you, where it's like, I guess I'm kind of British, but I'm not a citizen here, like, but, so I don't really I'm kind of in, like, limbo, you know what I mean? Even though I sound like I'm from from Brentford. But
that's the thing though, because like, you don't. Actually, I'm really bad at this. Do you look overtly Polish? Because I've known you for so long, I kind of don't really think about it anymore.
I don't think so. I don't know. You tell me.
Let us know. Does you look over? I'd say do I look overtly Pakistani, but I mean,
you're brown.
Yeah, exactly. Fell asleep in the Thailand bed, didn't it?
Yeah. But no, I was going to say. So like, say if something good was to sort of come out of Poland or some sort of...
Then you'd claim it.
No, but you'd be like, people would be like, oh, proud to be
Polish,
be Polish. But it's like...
Yeah,
but your relation to the person who, say, may have done that is no different to you. Like, you're born...
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
I see what you mean.
Just because you're born in the same territory of land doesn't mean that you, in some way... should kind of feel a bit more like, oh yes, my country. It's the same world. Like, people need to understand, like, we live on this planet, right? Where
we've just
we're
lost
all
a
humans.
whole secular right wing listeners.
I don't give a fuck, but that's the thing. Like, it doesn't matter.
It's a reasonable argument.
Yeah, like we should stop seeing it as like divided sort of territories and see it more as like one actual unit. Like
yeah. But then I do equally people who do want to see it divided. I'm very curious to know why or what benefit you think that has, because I feel like the common argument is like to know where you come from. And this is the other thing that's been like sort of, because of the way I've been raised, I've been told, this is your culture, and I'm like, hang on a minute, no, this is your culture.
Yeah, you're just
what you're projecting.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I'm going to find my own culture. Like, even when I have kids, I'm sure they won't have the same
views as me.
Yeah, views, morals, beliefs. Maybe they'll end up being Christian. I'll be like, okay, cool. There's nothing not like hurting anyone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I sort of think, what would be their reason for keeping things separate? Then this goes back to that conversation we had ages ago on whichever podcast it was, when I was on chat roulette. That girl, and she was like,
oh yeah,
and she was she was like, I don't want to leave my country. I don't think anyone should leave theirs. And I was there like, fucking why?
But the thing is, like,
see more
countries
shit.
are so small. Like, you can even take a country like
England
Russia.
is tiny.
Like, Russia's obviously the biggest country in the world, right? It spans over 3 continents, and it's still fucking tiny in comparison to just everything that's around us, right?
There's 2 continents, isn't it? Europe and Asia.
3.
What's the third one? There's Europe, Asia.
Oh yeah.
It ain't gonna be Africa.
Meh.
Sorry.
Okay, whatever. Geography. Okay, never mind. I forgot. I lost my train of thought now.
Yeah.
Oh
so
yeah.
Russia.
So you can take a country like as Russia, like as big as Russia. It's still fucking tiny in comparison with
the rest of the world.
But also just the solar system and all this. Like, without trying to sound all like fucking mystical and shit. But that's kind of how you need to think about it.
Smoke a few spliffs before we get into that chat, my friend.
I don't need spliffs to talk about that shit, bro.
You just eat bread.
Colonize Mars. That's what I'm saying.
God, you need to get off Elon Musk's dick.
No, it's not even. But the
No,
thing is,
it's comfy
not,
here.
It's warm.
Oh,
But it's not that.
Pretty
It's
warm
like
for
the
him.
thing is like you get hit by an asteroid. That's everyone. Everyone gone. Doesn't matter what fucking race you are, what country. If you're a fish, if you're I don't know 6'9", like you're going. Do you know what I
so
mean?
I've heard tall people have a high propensity to survive asteroids.
Well, they'll be the first to go because it's the height. You know, they get
Yeah, maybe if we just group all of them together, they could take it on the head.
absorb all the heat. Just watch it headbutt it away. Aroo!
3, 2, 1, jump! Oh, you missed time. How are we all dead?
See you later.
Tall cunt.
But anyways, that's a different topic.
Oh, we digress heavily.
Yeah.
This is what I love about this podcast, because you can go from a fucking serious matter
To colonize Mars, yeah.
to headbutt an asteroid off the Earth.
Oh, to that, yeah, exactly.
Colonize Mars was still like is a reasonable topic.
Yeah, I guess.
But yeah, I think I'd like to get Vera on, because she'll be able to give us
Educate us.
yeah, and that's the other thing that I want this podcast to be like when we have a chance to invite people on, is not necessarily just to like butt heads, but also just it's kind of an opportunity for me to learn. Just because I know that I've got a very set view of things, but what's that term? It's like a I guess subconscious.
Oh yeah, shit.
Not bias, but it's ignorance, I guess.
Yeah.
So because there's a lot of things that you just don't know that you don't know about.
Yeah, you can't know everything. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Or like there's certain concepts, for example, where you just if you're not aware of them, you would probably change your perspective on certain things. Like I think
Yeah.
I remember. So an example of that would be there was a story like ages ago about this. I think this guy from Kentucky or like Alabama, somewhere south
Down
of
south,
America.
yeah.
Yeah. So he's from like a bit of a Bible bashing family, and then I think his kid ended up being black because the wife had cheated.
well, I'm assuming so. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it wasn't going to be his. And I think certain things like that would change your perspective. Well, you'd hope, actually. Otherwise, that kid's kind of a really shit life. But if he was of a certain way towards people of color up until that point, which, given the nature of, from what I remember that article being like, he would have been. You would think that having now someone that I guess isn't technically part of you, but maybe for his mother, for example, is now changed how she would see people.
Yeah,
because now
totally.
she's going to have to raise a kid being viewed in a certain way, and she's going to be like, well, that's part of me. Why is that any different?
Exactly.
Right? So certain things like that, when that stops being subconscious ignorance, and then
Yeah, but the problem is
incompetence. Sorry, not ignorance.
But so the problem is and kind of like the sad truth is sometimes it takes something as extreme as that to change someone's viewpoint. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
It shouldn't have to take that. Like, I can imagine, I mean, I might be wrong. I have no experience in this, but, say if, white guy, super racist, finds himself in a life or death situation, a black guy comes and helps and saves
Do you
him.
find it funny how we always went? So we did the same thing. We went for black guy first. What about the Far East Asian?
Yeah, well,
Do
again,
you know what I mean? Like,
an Asian guy turns up and just fucking pulls him out of the lake. I don't know why it's out of the lake. Pulls him out of the lake. And he's like, I got you, buddy. He's like, wait, what? But you're meant to hate? Whoa.
it's like that picture of when all the riots were happening. That one black guy that got photographed
Carrying. Yeah, totally.
I think he's actually a personal trainer. I remember finding out. I was like, yeah, fair enough.
I mean, you kind of
Carrying the
have
dude
to
is like
involve some
bleeding.
sort of athleticism if you just have that physique. Like, I could be
or you
banker,
could just
I
be
don't
black.
know.
Do you know what I mean?
them good genes.
Speaking of which, when you guys see this episode, it would have been a week ago. About a week ago.
Yeah.
That the UFC now has 3 African champions. So you got heavyweight, middleweight, and welterweight classes all have African champions.
There
Do you know
go.
how fucking scary that is?
Yeah, man.
So when we and Jerome used to play, this is like a total tangent, but be a nice little story to sort of get.
Taking it.
Yeah, it's still on the topic of racism and
Taking
racial
notes,
profiling. Yeah. When we and Jerome used to play FIFA, back when you could still play in the same fucking room as
I
someone,
can't fucking stand.
but that's another topic. We'll get on to that later. That's a very almost grown up topic. We used to play international, right? And he always used to go for someone good, like
Barcelona.
That's not international. That's not international.
I'm Kamil, I know football.
That's geography again, bro.
Yeah. Football's a country, right?
What's the capital of
Yeah, it's
America?
in Asia,
Africa.
right? Yeah.
So he used to,
Realize what you said.
he used to choose someone good like Argentina or like Brazil or Spain,
Or Barcelona.
which has Barcelona in it. And I used to always use Cameroon because
Sick.
because
just fast back people.
yeah,
but strong as well.
Yeah, exactly that, right? So they had insane athleticism.
Yeah.
So like he could be like halfway through my half, and I would make a comeback, sprint in,
Boom.
make the tackle, and it'd be fine, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, even then, it's sort of, is that underlying racism? Is that
No, you're just you're just highlighting their strengths. I
and
guess
speed?
I guess it's just the genetics.
Yeah, it's
The-
insane.
Yeah.
Like if you, yeah, it's
There's
just.
nothing wrong with that. No, you just say like you are really fast. Like
So I found this YouTube channel where this guy talks about certain athletes around the world. So he talks about powerlifters, UFC fighters, and different things that because you're using different energy systems, right? And he prefaces all of his videos being like, if you're too soft to like, if you're going to get offended by it, he's like, just leave my channel. He's like, I'm talking about it as a matter of fact, like, you know, people from, because he talks about how like the Neanderthals had to survive in colder climates. Obviously they didn't have as much sun, so that's why they have fairer skin because they don't need to get as much vitamin D in.
evolution, isn't it? Like
Yeah, and he's like, and how that's translated to the athletes of certain regions coming from so on and so forth. And I find that stuff so fascinating.
yeah, dude.
But I think people get too touchy about it, and I think even when I'm trying to do this podcast, I'm always like, can I say that word? Is this right? Am I going to offend someone?
You're always going to offend someone. Like
Yeah, but
That's
okay,
how it is.
It's not that. But
it's just being.
if I'm being ignorant about it.
No, totally.
It's because I was raised using the word Oriental as someone to describe someone from the Far East, but I think that's now wrong.
I guess.
And people also get annoyed about. Sometimes they get annoyed about black or brown or yellow, and I'm like, well, the color you
But
are.
then it's the same sort of thing. Like, okay, how would you describe a white person? You just go, oh, that white guy, or
Caucasian.
Caucasian. No one fucking says Caucasian.
Yeah, it's like you
That's
saying.
fucking long. It's
Like you
stupid.
saying last podcast in the act of meeting.
Yeah, but that was 'cause
Things no one says.
things I say on first dates.
Hi, I'm Caucasian.
Would you like to mate?
That's your mating call.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And we come
It's
full
never
circle.
worked.
The circle of life. Charlotte's probably sat there like, he did say that.
So how about Mars?
We can go populate it if we mate.
Oh, if we mate, turn
Mate.
into like a fucking robot.
Brobot.
Oh.
Brobot. That's me.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far, mate.
Sisbot? No, let's not go down that route. Dadbot.
Dadbot, yeah.
Nice. But yeah, I think it's been quite a deep topic this time around. But I think it was an interesting one to bring up because I always like to understand where people are with that. So first of all, there was what's your hierarchy of racism? Maybe don't comment that in the comments.
Just let us know your views on it, I guess. Like, if you've had any experiences
DM us.
as well.
DM the almost.grownup handle on Instagram, which we don't plug enough, by the way.
I put a little graphic on every video.
Yeah, I know you do that, but in the audio side of things,
Oh, good
go
shout.
and follow us, Anchor and Apple.
There's a link in
and
the
Spotify
in the
listeners.
description to our link tree, which just takes you to everything. YouTube.
But also, like,
Instagram,
if you're
also.
finding that these podcasts are a little too long and losing interest, we got nice little short clips on the Instagram.
yeah.
We'll probably be expanding that onto Facebook too shortly. So watch your space. Make sure you tune in for the next podcast. Let us know your thoughts. Hierarchy of racism. What your thoughts on nationalism?
Jesus. Got a list of things for them to do, like homework.
Yeah, homework. But the most important part of your homework is to hit the notification bell
Boom.
and subscribe. Maybe not in that order because it doesn't work, but listen to us and carry on listening to us.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys in the next podcast.
Peace, dudes.